Review of government budgets and analysis has exposed a funding deficit in Nigeria's missions abroad. Experts are concerned with this situation, saying it is negatively impacting the nation's foreign policy and diplomatic interests. In the last 5 years, Nigeria budgeted less than 200 billion naira for its foreign missions, representing a paltry 0.5% of all its budgetary proposals of 43.98 trillion naira in that period. Now, according to them, poor funding has seen the nation unable to meet some diplomatic obligations, as routine as keeping up with the rent, and it has also affected the welfare of Nigerians abroad. Joining me for this discussion is Public Affairs Analyst Chuks Nwoko and Strategy Consultant and Public Affairs Analyst Dikbo Oyiwole. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Now, I'm certain that you read the story. I think it came up sometime last week, where one of the embassies, I think in Hungary, that Nigeria cannot pay its rent, and that generated concern, where reports and details had to be dug up across on how much we have spent over time with regards to budgeting for our missions abroad. But then let's take it back in time to when Nigeria began to engage with other countries, because the essence of having embassies or missions abroad is to have that international interaction. Yeah. And the vision Tafawa Balewa's administration had, when you look at how it was at the time, is for Nigeria to be among those countries where, seeing that he envisioned that Nigeria will be that superpower. We talked about Nigeria being the big brother of Africa, being the great nation, and that vision, one is wondering, is it that the labors of our heroes past with information like this is beginning to be in vain? Because he had a vision, but now it's looking blurry. If you had to look at it, I wonder what your reaction is. Let me begin with you, Chuks.
For me, your monologue simply explains what the problem is. You talked about Tafawa Balewa. That means that you had a leader at the time.
Yes.
Then you had a vision. That's all you require to have. Now, anybody can have money. Anybody can have money. What you require to be able to drive an individual life or a community life or a family life, particularly a nation, is one man. Once you have a leader who is visionary, every other thing falls into place. But that's not the situation that we have today. We're beat down with internal setbacks.
So what has brought us to where we are with regards to this issue now, from what you're saying?
Maybe you want to call it distraction or the absence of that same vision, or absence, of that leadership that has that vision. Because there's nothing you can do that you can separate what we're discussing here from leadership. You need leadership that understands.
Well, we have had leaders over time.
I'm talking about leadership here.
Okay.
You can always have leaders. You need to have leadership who understands the ramifications of leadership, of how to drive nationhood, of how to attain that vision that Tafawa Balewa had, to place Nigeria at that place where other big players exist. Do you understand? It requires vision, and it requires consistency of that type of behavior, or that type of understanding, knowledge, understanding, all of that put together, being able to communicate, being able to sustain it, being able to have a leader stand on the podium and say, this is where we want to go to, and everybody will follow. I mean, when that young man in 1964 said America was going he went to Houston to make a speech that America was going to the moon, it was only a statement that he made.
Right. And
you have individuals in that country who made it their responsibility. And I've always liked Houston because of what they have there about NASA. That has always been my interest about that. So I go to the place to see it. Trump said they are going to Mars in 2024. It was just a statement. That's what leaders do. They think, they speak, and their citizens, they follow. Now, money comes in subsequently, but it's usually first about leadership, about being able to articulate that vision, being able to have a vision. What is a vision? Ability to use your mind eyes to see
the future.
And that requires reading, that requires brilliance, that requires articulation, that requires burning the midnight candle, that requires We're so much distraction, internal distractions and injuries that we inflict on ourselves that I doubt if we are going to have in the next 100 years somebody who is going to, I believe that we will have eventually. But right now, what we have had in the last 25 years has just been, PDP, APC, NPP, and politicking, budgeting. We have a problem with budgeting. We budget and we steal it.
It's budgeting really the problem, because when
part of the problem. We're constantly budgeting and it's constantly being stolen, because before you budget, what do you do with budgeting? You have a list of what is going into the budget.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So have you added a visionary project in your budgeting?
Right. That's the big question. Let's bring it to you now, Dikpo. When you look at the issues that he has pointed out 60 years on, because he even began, when he began to engage in that, talking about Tafawa Balewa, it was 3 years before we became independent. Now, when you look at over 60 years, this is where we have found ourselves. And he is saying that the challenge is the challenge of vision, continuity, and government is a continuum.
Yes.
Is it that the vision wasn't passed on to this other persons that led to drive, to bring up that leadership that could drive the vision that Tafawa Balewa's government had, and bring us to that place where we needed to be, such that we could have avoided a situation that we found ourselves now?
So I believe it was passed on. We can't use the excuse that it wasn't passed on, because, like you said, government is a continuum, ideally. But in Nigeria, we know that when one government comes to power, they try to erase whatever the past administration has done. But that being said, you would also agree with me that a lot of the players in government today, at various levels, are a lot of folks that were young men, young women, at the time of Nigeria's independence. Some of them maybe post-independence, not more than 10, 15, 20 years after our independence. So it was still fresh in the minds of a lot of people. Well, like you rightly said, we lack a lot of leadership, because I've always had this conversation with people. I have said that at Nigeria as a nation, we're the most populous black nation on the planet. What are the key foreign policies we have? One, that even influences other nations on the continent to even start with, okay? A couple of months ago, there was a lot of talk about Black Lives Matter. And a couple of friends and I were talking about the role Nigeria had to play. If we do not understand the pride of place we have as the most populous black nation on the planet, that if we get things right here, we can always influence things abroad, not just on the continent,
so that you're saying is lacking.
The globe. It is lacking. So what we're seeing in the ministry talk about right now is only symptomatic of the real disease. Before we went on air, I showed a couple of pictures from embassies abroad. I showed you a picture of a Ukrainian embassy in the Ukraine, and you heard when she asked that, okay, they just move in there. That was situational things. The New York embassy is quite a sham. Prime real estate in the middle of Manhattan. You have Gary crumbs around. You have all sorts of smells around, like there's some cooking buka around there, and then people have a lot of challenges. Their operations, has it been smooth so far? We have a lot of instances where people are asking for bribes, where people even go as far as asking for sex so that people can have their passports renewed.
Yeah, we had that situation not long ago.
Now, this is something I have been hearing of in the last couple of years. Back to back, every single year I hear of it from friends abroad. What are we doing, even with the resources we've had so far?
That's the question.
A couple of months ago, as well, this year, we had a travel ban from the US and all of that, not just Nigeria on the list. Every other nation that was involved with that scenario. The foreign ministry dropped very, very scathing statements. They were obviously pissed. They were irritated. What did my own country do? They said, okay, we will accept it. We'll form a committee. We'll get back to you. There wasn't any sense of anger. There wasn't any sense of outrage, because we have lost our pride of place. We have no sense of responsibility. So understand that a nation like Nigeria, with the position we have on the continent and in the world, that we should be directing certain things and we should be treated in certain ways that are acceptable to us. But I mean, like it's rightly said, we lack leadership. When that vision isn't there, there's nothing for people to drive at. It's just that simple, because there's no vision, there's no direction. So I mean, everybody just moves the way they feel they need to move.
But he has said that he doesn't think that we'll have that anytime soon. I wonder, is that what it is for you as well?
Okay, well, hopefully we do. Hopefully we do. But I mean, with the current crop of leaders we have right now, it would be a bit far-fetched. I don't mean to sound like a pessimist, but I mean, we need to also work with the realities on ground, because miracles would not happen, okay? We also need to understand that as a people, generally, leaders, followers, we need a huge level of reorientation. But it is also going to be it also needs to be hinged or founded on the fact that we have a serious pride of place, not just on this continent, but in the world. Nigeria is not a nation
How did
that
we even
just
get
gets
to this point of beginning to lose that sense of a pride of place? How did we get here?
You know, let me quickly say this. Our politicians are already positioning themselves for 2023 elections. The issues here are very, very mundane. Now, what I expect to happen is what I call a rebirth.
Yes.
Except that happens. But when it's going to happen, I don't know. What I know that is going to happen is that politicians are already positioning themselves. Our discourse is the type of things that we talk about and they talk about. It's not gratifying. But how did we get to this point? Nigeria got its independence in 1960. By 1964, there was a coup. Just in that December 1964, before that coup took place, there was a Commonwealth meeting that took place in Federal Palace Hotel. And there were young nations who wanted to come to Nigeria, just to come and see, and just to come and visit this great country and meet people like Mugabe, meet Tafawa Balewa Square, and then take seedlings and just visit this. But we did not capitalize on the greatness of this great nation that has stood at the point. Africa was the centerpiece of our foreign policy. We were fighting for Rhodesia, Zimbabwe now, and South Africa and all that. So that was the opportunity. But you know what? We missed it. Why? Sectional interest, personal interest, political divisions and polarization. And that has kept us down. We did not capitalize on that niche, on that name, on that end power that we acquired. Now, the question I have been asking myself is, what is it that we had as an advantage at that time? We had the advantage of being a prosperous and a powerful nation. That was an advantage that we played down. Right. That's how we missed it. Then we got into this Southwest, Western, whatever, ANPP, and all these political parties, Tafawa Balewa Square, all these divisions. Nobody talked about Nigeria at that level anymore. It was no longer about the whole. It was about our section, about myself. So we lost that opportunity. And that's what I've been saying, that when you don't use up what you have as an unfair advantage. Today I ask them, I've been coming to this station for many years, and every time I come here I ask people, that's why South Africa and the xenophobia took place. Yes. Because they have no regard for us. Zero. We have lost that unfair advantage. Yes. I have an unfair advantage over some Nigerians. That's why I'm here. There must be something that I have. There must be something that he has. Why you are here? There's something that you have. The question the answer to provide is to find out what that thing is. Nigeria cannot tell you what he has. Nothing. That's why Ghanaians, people are being treated the way they're being treated in Ghana. That's why Nigerians are being treated the way they're treated outside of the shores of this country. And again, check the way we even treat ourselves by ministry people who are in small positions of authority, the way we treat ourselves. So, what is it that we have, apart from oil, which we have not even used up the resources appropriately? So, we need to sit down and start by asking ourselves, when are we going to get one leadership, one man, who can come and ventilate a very brilliant thought and say, this is what we want to do, this is where we need to drive, but it will be possible. You know why? It's all about politics. Look, some people want to produce the next president. It's not about what they are bringing to the table. It's not. We have a president right now, I don't know what the problem is. He can't even communicate with us for whatever reason. We have people who are constantly troubling this country. Right. So at what point are we going to be driving the Nigerian project? What is the unfair advantage? But
our celebration this year was about unity and driving the Nigerian project.
Who is going to drive it?
That was what the 60-year celebration was. That was what the president said in his statement. Unity.
Yeah.
On paper. On paper, that is it. We all know that there's a lot of division across different fault lines. We have the religion, we have ethnicity, we have tribalism, we have a lot of issues around the security, education. People don't have access to adequate health care. So I like Nigeria to an amateur tattoo artist. And I'm sure you're wondering what I'm talking about. So Nigeria is the kind of place where you have an amateur tattoo artist take your arm to the person and say, okay, you know what, this is my name written out. Please tattoo it on my arm. After Nigeria has been able to confidently misspell your name on your arm, and then you look in the mirror and say, no, this isn't what I wrote for you. This isn't my name. And I say, oh, madam, no worry, I'll cancel them for you. And then he does that. I say, give me your other arm. They don't have any sense of responsibility when it comes to the permanence of the things they do. Not understanding the fact that the policies, the actions you take has a lot to go with how people's lives are affected. We're Nigerians, not just in theory, but we are living, breathing organisms. We are people. Decisions you make affects lives, that affects families, that affects the futures of people. Today we have IDP camps in different parts of the country. When the IDP issues started, we have people who were children then and now teenagers.
Yes.
Some of those teenagers have been abused and then they've been raped. Some of them now have children there. So now we have 2 generations in those IDP camps. What sense of responsibility do we have to those people? Do we still call them Nigerians? They are refugees in their own country. If for any reason they had their own international passports like you and I do, can we say that we're all equal? Can we say that we are united? Can we talk about equity? Can we talk about justice? Okay, these are the questions we should be asking. So when we're saying that, okay, celebrating independence this year was about unity, all of that is huge rhetoric when it is not backed up by action. And it is quite shameful because, I mean, so a couple of months ago, this is something we've also been having year in, year out, where we have a lot of people get sponsored abroad to study and then we don't pay their school fees. Right. This is something that foreign governments see. So excuse me, when you do not treat a member of your own household respectfully outside, why should an outsider treat you respectfully? It's just basic human nature. This doesn't necessarily have to do with anything with racism. Okay, it's just basic human nature. You come on here, you come on air, you thrash maybe a member of your family, and then you expect him to come as a guest and say that, oh, you know what, that is not the case. It will never happen. We will not be respected. Our lives do not matter clearly here within our own borders. So why should they matter outside our borders? That's why we had the issue we had in South Africa. And that's why we're also being greatly disrespected in nations like Ghana. The whole Ghana incident that happened a few months ago, what was the response of the foreign ministry? What was the response of the Nigerian government? It shows you that we have been so much coward in our own. I think we also recognize that we have also lost it because of the way they react to issues. Because, I mean, when you have lost confidence in yourself, it shows in how you act or in how your inaction is even postured, which is something that I think for us right now as a nation, like Nigeria, it is quite shameful and it is quite embarrassing. We need to address it, and we need to address it urgently.
And he said that if we are to address it, there has to be a rebirth. That is what, when we are talking about a rebirth, give us a picture of what it should look like.
Ideally, a rebirth is where we have a Nigeria where every life matters. Every life is equal to the other. It doesn't matter which part of the country you're from. It's also a country where we have foreign policies that affect at least a dozen nations on this continent alone. Because we do have that pride of place. Geographically, economically, by the population, every single metric is working in our favor. So the question is, why do we have a problem with maximizing those numbers, those indicators?
Is it so difficult to see
is it so difficult
or explore?
To see? So, I mean, so for me, that has always been the question. So yes, we need a Nigeria that works for everyone within and outside the country. Because, I mean, I talked about people who are having even issues renewing their own passports. I have a friend who had to wait 10 months to renew his passport. Luckily for him, he has a US passport. So what if he didn't have another passport?
So with issues like this, what does it portend for those that are outside? If before now you're having challenges renewing passport and even other issues that also...
You get picked up by ICE. So you get picked up by ICE because your passport has expired, and then you're telling them that, no, it's from my embassy. And also, they also complain that they also don't get to pick their phones. They don't return emails. So even when ICE is even trying to get the embassy on the phone to verify your claim, they can't even get them. So before you know it, in the next 3 days, you are back in Muritala Mohammed, and your MBA program that you're going for has been terminated just 4 months to its conclusion. And then your father that had to sell 2 houses and a car has lost everything. And then your entire future is all but bleak. That is the nation we are in right now. We need to do better. We need to do better for people within and outside our nation. As long as you call yourself a Nigerian, we need to do a lot more better than we are doing right now.
Right.
The rebirth thing that you talked about, this is very, very important.
Right.
When the EndSARS protest started and went on for about a week, I looked at it and I thought, oh, this is it. But you see, Those in authority, I don't think they discerned what it was all about. Because if you notice, they said with NSAS, but it went beyond that scope.
Absolutely.
Now, they were dealing with invisible leadership as far as that organization, that protest was concerned. But it's now been aborted. As far as I'm concerned, it became an abortion for me. That kind of thing is going to happen here. You see what is going on in Katsina and all over the place. Eventually, because you have people who are in position of authority who are not able to connect with this generation. The rebirth is going to come. When it comes, something is going to precede it. These people are not going to, all these APC and PD people are not going to have, they're not going to be interested in rebirth. If you know what rebirth means, you're a woman, you go through birth pangs. It's not something you are able to explain.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Now, they are not able to connect with what is going on. So it's coming. When it eventually comes, you see all these politicians, they will be taken unawares. You know why? Because there is a spirit, there's a Nigerian spirit that is getting ready to give that, to initiate and supervise that. You know, when you're a woman, you go to the hospital, you are supervised by a medical doctor that is going to supervise that birth. When it happens, because this country is greater than all these people put together, their percentage is very small. So it's going to happen. The time is coming. But when it happens, all of these things will change, and we'll have that leadership who is able to bring that dream, and we'll be able to connect to it.
All right, and have that pride of place internationally.
Very
We
important.
must thank you, Public Affairs Analyst Chukwuoko and Strategy Consultant and Public Affairs Analyst Tikbo Oyewole. Gentlemen, thank you for your time on the